Hunt Showdown is the best multiplayer shooter I've played in the last decade. I know, that's quite a statement. But stick around for what I have to say, and I promise you, you'll understand why I've become so irreversibly passionate for this hidden gem of an FPS. And you know the thing about passion is, it's contagious. Couple disclaimers before we begin. I will not be delving into the technical problems of the game, of which there are a considerable amount. If you want a critique of the technical state, I'm sure there are plenty of videos explaining those problems in detail. But even so, I've played this game for a very long time, and none of these issues have ever compromised my experience, nor have they become noticeable enough to ruin my immersion. Secondly, because this game contains so many elements that are tailored to my specific interests, such as the time period, horror style, retro weapons, and western aesthetic, there will undoubtedly be bias spread throughout the video. It can't be helped, I'm afraid. It was 2016, and I decided to look up Crytek's next game, having been blown away by Crysis 2 and 3. And here it was, Hunt Showdown, a PvP VE title, where teams of two fight each other to collect bounty tokens from supernatural bosses in the American Bayou, all while set in the 1800s. Intriguing premise. Needless to say, this game was stuck in the back of my mind for many years. The reviews came out in 2018, talking about its incredibly difficult learning curve and the permanent loss of your hunter after you die. Two things that were enough to scare me off for so long, until eventually I decided to give it a shot when I found out my friends were also interested in buying it. And my god, did I give it a shot. Right from the first frame, I knew this was the game for me. Something truly extraordinary after years of trend-obsessed products forming one big soulless universe of mediocrity. The first thing you'll notice is the unrivaled sound design. You've never heard audio like this. It is so finely tuned and crisp that it amplifies the paranoia you already feel by being thrown into this unforgiving world. Anything and everything relies on your ears to do the heavy lifting. To put it in perspective, the simple fact that any gunshots can be heard clearly from any corner of the map shows just how any desperate acts or moments of recklessness can be met with severe punishment and a guaranteed loss. The impact of weaponry and bullet contact has finally made guns terrifying again. A feeling I haven't felt since the terrorist hunt mode in Rainbow Six Vegas 2. Although I think it was the AI in that game that terrified me the most. As a huge advocate for the option of stealth in games, I was very satisfied with how rewarded I felt by being patient and strategic with my next move. However, I recommend not being too patient, as the sound of footsteps and rattling can drive you crazy if you don't act quick enough. You'll never be sure if the enemy is still near, as this game made the clever decision of not telling you how many players are left in the match. There were times I was alone on a server, but since the match never ends at last man, I had absolutely no idea I was by myself, so I kept going, feeling just as paranoid and tense. Other times there were definitely people in the server as I heard gunshots in the beginning, but then I'd stumble upon one of the buildings, finding player bodies everywhere, including ones holding the bounty tokens, with no one alive in sight, wondering what the hell happened, and trying to piece together how they could have died like some detective noir game. Weird circumstances like that enrich the experience and player storytelling, and it's probably why every match still feels fresh and new, 400 hours in. That, plus a plethora of mechanics and interactive elements that fill the map with unique opportunities. Take the traps for example. Never have I seen the community get so creative with trap placement despite gunshots being so damn punishing. The concertina bomb is a fan favourite. It sets off a barbed wire that makes you move very slowly as you get cut and begin to bleed out. And if that wasn't bad enough, you can pair it with poison, and if that happens, it's lights out for you, cowboy. The goal of this game is to collect bounty tokens from 1 or 2 bosses hidden somewhere in the map. And once you kill one, you start a banishing, which is a sort of dark ritual to finish off its soul. The banishment takes several minutes and alerts everyone to your location. This is why traps become so important, because now you're on the defense and the entire server is come to kill you. Never have I played a game that got my heart going quite like Hunt, and that's coming from a horror fanatic. I think another brilliant decision this game made was to prioritize evac as the main objective rather than forcing you to kill everyone else before you can achieve victory. More often than not, you can easily escape with the goods if you choose not to fight. Well, that is if you can battle your own lust for combat. And who can blame you if you can't, when you're playing with such addictive and visceral gameplay? The best gun combat in recent memory. However, guns in this game do suck. They're ancient and inaccurate, which finally gives players incentive to try out new methods when the guns inevitably fail. Oh, but that doesn't change the fact that if a single well-placed bullet does hit you, you'll be knocking on heaven's door. My favourite method of combat is melee. I don't know what possessed Crytek to make melee combat so damn fun, but because of that, I'm now a damn psychopath on the battlefield. I tend to be more reckless now than I used to be, but sometimes it pays off. Like the time 4 enemies were in the building, and I opened the door, dodged most of their bullets, and ended up killing all 4 of them, simply because they didn't expect someone so mind-numbingly stupid enough for a direct assault. And thanks to aim being difficult and guns not always being accurate, I pulled off even more insane stunts and walked out with many kills and 2 bounties, despite not being that good at killing with traditional means. Now, can you imagine trying dumb stuff like that in COD or any other modern shooter? 95% of the time you will die. And on the topic of other shooters, I can never escape the frustration of dying, despite usually being very casual at gaming. Playing enough of those games turned me toxic at one point, so why in God's name does Hunt Showdown, a game where the time to kill is so low, where there are many opportunities for cheap kills, and where you lose your hunter and equipment when you die, not frustrate the hell out of me? It's probably because of the reasons I've already laid out. How the game rewards patience and stealth, how there are many methods to defeating the enemy other than shooting, and the fact that killing isn't the main objective. Banishing the bosses and taking their bounty tokens to the evac is. If you want, and this has happened to me many times, you can sneak into a huge fight between all the players in the server at the bounty token, step in, steal it, use the getaway route, and escape with the bounty while the others are too busy trying to get kills. This is a viable and intelligent option, and it can be accomplished without ever raising your weapon, provided you don't run into any annoying NPC enemies, especially those damn hellhounds. Never did I think AI dogs could get any worse from Bloodborne. But one of Crytek's main goals with Hunt Showdown was to beat Bloodborne for the most annoying dogs in any game, and these dogs cause a lot of damage. Getting killed by players doesn't annoy me as much as I thought it would, probably because the battles that take place are so thrilling and adrenaline inducing that it doesn't feel cheap a lot of the time. It's so much easier to accept defeat when you have a long arduous fight spanning 20 minutes and maybe you make a mistake giving away your position or the other player just anticipated your move better. The split-second decisions are what make the match. You're fighting a boss and another player is in the area. Do you try to finish the boss quickly and set up defense? Or do you lure the player in, pretending you're too distracted to notice, and use the boss to your advantage by forcing him out of hiding so you can provide the killing blow? One method I like to do is be loud and obvious outside one of the buildings that I know enemies are in, giving the impression I'm a dumbass but also aggressive, and let them focus their sight on that side, before going super stealthy in the confusion and attack from behind. Seeing the wacky methods players come up with to win fights is half the fun. It's a game of strategy as it is adapting to each situation. You can't settle with one playstyle in the game. No sir. You can't be impatient and aggressive all the time, nor can you be hidden and afraid to fight. You have to change when the situation demands it, and that's one of the many beauties of Hunt Showdown. There's so much I can say about this game, so much I can gush about, but for sanity's sake, Let's wrap it up by acknowledging the balls of Crytek to be on the risk of bankruptcy after Crysis 3, and instead of making the logical decision of making another Crysis or some original property that copies the popular trends of the time, they opted to create a passion project for a small niche audience that is so far removed from other shooters that it will never be mainstream. Whatever possessed them to make that decision, I have no clue. But I'm so grateful, because what they've accomplished here convinced me that Hunt Showdown is no less the greatest shooter of the decade. Thanks for stopping by. Until next time.